The Batteries Included podcast is brought to you with United Chargers and their Grizzly range. The next generation of Grizzly is here. Meet the Grizzly Ultimate, the most powerful AC Level 2 charger for home use. With a maximum current of 80 amps, that's 19.2 kilowatts. Your vehicle could be charged up to twice as fast as a standard level 2 and up to 15 times faster than a level 1. And of course, it's Wi-Fi connected, so you can take control of your home charging, view stats, set a charging schedule, take part in demand response programs, and control your charger remotely. And that joins the lineup alongside the original Grizzly Classic. The Grizzly Duo, designed to charge two vehicles at the same time. The Grizzly Mini, a portable charging station. And the Grizzly Smart, a revolutionary smart EV charger. Those chargers can adjust the current from 16 amps up to 40 amps, that's 9.6 kilowatts. Plus, the Grizzly Ranger IP67 rated, built in Canada, and with the highest quality materials. You can order yours right now. Go to unitedchargers.com, that's unitedchargers.com. Good morning, gang. Hello and welcome to the Batteries Included podcast. It's Friday, March 14th, 2025, episode 79. On today's show, Toyota press the reset on their EV plans and improve the BZ4X. The debut of the Mercedes-Benz CLA and the Audi A6 e-tron gets its US launch, and a lot more. Plus, you in the comments, let us know what you want to talk about this week. We'd love to hear from you as always. What's on your mind? Hey, add to the running order. We don't mind. We can discuss it. I'm your host, Martin Lee from the EV News Daily podcast. Joining us today is the on location altruistic Mr. Tom Malogany, senior editor at Inside EVs and host of the YouTube channel State of Charge. And we have Dominic Yoni, long time Dominic Yoni. I mean, I suppose he has been for a long time.
It's been for a while, yeah.
We have long time Dominic Yoni and EV journalist, host of the YouTube channel Drive Electric with Dominic. And you'll see in the comments all of our friends as well. And you, if you're watching it for the first time, welcome along to the gang. I think I saw Kyle in the comments as well. He's probably busy testing something or other. And we've got a lot to get into today, including I talk about, Toyota having another little bite of their EV plans, see what they are coming up with, not only with the improved BZ4X. Actually, they're getting rid of those names. They've said that the letters and the numbers don't work. They're going to go with names. But also how they've improved that vehicle and the new ones coming. I guess you could say the same for Mercedes-Benz. Now, Mercedes-Benz launching the CLA, third generation CLA. So you'll already notice we're not talking about the EQ something. Yeah, because those names have gone. Well, they've kind of half-arsed it. They're going to keep the it's with EQ technology, but no one's going to say that bit of the name. So companies never like to admit their wrongs. They've kind of kept that in there, but they've just called it the Mercedes-Benz CLA, which is cool. This was previously an internal combustion front-wheel drive sedan. Now it's an EV first, hybrid second car. Goes on sale this autumn. In the fall, the hybrid version will arrive sometime early next year, though. The electric one is good on paper. All right, let's get some pictures on screen. Maybe some images for our viewers. If you're watching on YouTube, by the way, you can hit the like button and even subscribe to the channel if you want to, so you never miss a show. But it's more important that if you like the video, you hit like, it will, the algorithm, as they say, will recommend us to other people who like similar content to you. Car stuff, EV stuff, you know what I'm talking about, right? First vehicle on the MMA, Mercedes Modular Architecture platform. This is an 800-volt architecture vehicle. Battery size, 85 kilowatt hours usable. And Mercedes-Benz talking a lot about how they've improved their technology, 20% improvement on energy density because of the silicon oxide added to the graphite in the anode. I just said some words, and I think I understood what they meant, but we'll dig into it. Two-speed transmission, feeling all very Porsche Taycan-y, Audi e-tron GTE. A maximum DC charge rate of 320 kilowatts. If you hadn't worked out now, this is the real deal. They're talking about things like peak regen, capture at 200 kilowatts, air-to-air, multi-source heat pump system, working on the efficiency. WLTP, obviously it'll be less EPA, but WLTP 492 miles. Now that is in the rear-wheel drive version. There are all-wheel drive versions as well that don't go that far less, actually. So a very important vehicle for Mercedes-Benz to come with as they kind of rethink where they're going with their electric vehicle lineup. They seem very proud of where they've got to. Tom, we'll come to you first. What do you make of the CLA this week?
I'm very impressed with it. It more so than I thought I would. And I'm surprised. I do see a lot of people saying that they don't like the design of it. I love the design of it. And I love that front grille with all those all the little tri-stars in there. I think that looks really good. Love the swooping lines. Love that Mercedes light bar across the front that we've been getting used to now in some of their current versions. I think it's a great a great little car. I mean, the dimensions are almost exactly the same as Model 3 as far as the overall dimensions, length, width, height. It's almost as if, that was their goal and said, here, make this the same size as a Model 3, because within an inch, every dimension's the same. The only thing that isn't is the wheelbase. The wheelbase is a little shorter than the Model 3s, I think by about 3 inches. But other than that, I'm sure Model 3 probably will have more interior dimension room. I don't know if we've got the interior volume on this, but Tesla seems to do really well with optimizing the inside room. And, of course, everybody says, oh, you got to compare it to a Tesla. But you almost have to these days, because the Tesla, some of their vehicles, like the 3 and the Y, are kind of like the benchmarks in their class. So as much as I don't want to always compare things to Tesla, that's the best-selling vehicle in that class, and this goes right up against the Model 3. It's a dressed-up version of that, and with the 800-volt architecture, over 300 kilowatt charging. Of course, we always need to remind everyone that's peak. If it hits it for a minute and then drops down to 150 kilowatts, well, big deal that it's 320 kilowatts. But I don't expect it to be that bad or as good as e-tron, or Taycan, you plug in, you get it, and it pulls across. But if they come close to that, if this holds a high C rate, up till 60 or 70%, then this looks like a really good little package. Now, of course, it's expensive. I think it starts, was it at 55, Martin? 55,000. I think is where it starts. But I like the specs and I like the looks. I see some comments saying they like the specs but don't like the looks. I like the looks on this thing. I would take this any day of the week over a Model 3 looks wise, even the new Highland version. But looks are subjective. I'd need to get in it to sit the interior. Oh yeah, and if you're watching on YouTube now, you notice Mercedes actually put in a usable frunk in a car.
Yeah.
They let you open it. They let you open the bonnet. The hood doesn't need a special tool to get in. That's amazing.
Yeah, they did it on their smallest offering. You know what I mean? So that means, I would think that means that their packet, that in the future, they're probably going to plan for that. If they can do it on this car, they can certainly do it on their larger electric vehicles. So the Germans are finally coming to understand that we like frunks. It's almost as if, if you remember back when cars started getting cup holders in them, which might be ahead of a lot of people's time here. The Germans were holdouts. The German brands were like, no, you don't drink when you're in your car. You drive when you're in your car. And they were like the last ones to put cup holders in cars. But it seemed like frunks weren't a high priority for the German brands either. But it's good to see that they put them in there. I like this. I like the whole thing. I like the looks. I like the specs. Hopefully, I like the charging on paper. Hopefully, it lives up to that. I can't wait to get a hold of one of these and check it out.
Not Shiloh in the comments says 30 minutes, 10 to 80 is not great. 21 minutes, my friend. 21 minutes, 10 to 80, which you might still say, oh, but, this week, one of the Chinese names, Farasis Energy, also came out with a 6C battery that's heading to vehicles. There are things like the Li Auto Mega vehicles that are 5C charging. And so, yeah, there are Chinese vehicles that will charge at 500 kilowatts, but you can't go and you're not falling over 500 kilowatt charges, are you, at the end of your street? So why would Mercedes-Benz deliver a vehicle now, this autumn, which has got a 5 or 6C charge rate, when you can't charge at those speeds. Now, you could say, well, it's future-proofed. I can make a good argument for why they should move ahead of the charging infrastructure, and that would raise the tide. That makes sense. It would drag everyone along, so you can make that argument. But in terms of the looks, like, if it has to look a certain way to get the 5.1 miles per kilowatt hour, which is the way I like to think of it. I know everyone has different ways of looking at efficiency, but just the way I was kind of brought up and brought into EVs, like I first started thinking about efficiency in miles per kilowatt hour. Some people really hate that measurement. They can't get their head around it, or they want watt hours per kilometer. But 5.1 is, as Tom says, that is Model 3 Highland territory in its best form. And this is maybe even a little better than the best Tesla can do at the moment. So that is, if a vehicle's got to look a certain way, and it's a sedan, so it's not like they've tried to really sort of smooth out an SUV shape. But this is also the company that said, maybe we went too far with styling of EQS, EQE. Maybe we should just make an S-Class, because S-Class buyers want to buy an S-Class. And it happens to have batteries, but it looks like an S-Class. So I don't know. I mean, arguments both ways, aren't there? So, Dom, what do you reckon?
I mean, I reckon it looks pretty good. I mean, I really kind of like. I've always liked the CLA. Anyway, I see them around town. I realize it's like usually like the entry model for Mercedes. So yeah, front wheel drive and all that. I mean, I've never actually looked into it because it's been a combustion car. So I just kind of see them and you just kind of ignore them. But this is This is like a real tour de force on Mercedes by Mercedes. Just an expression of all the electric vehicle expertise they've been developing over a while. They've made the motors themselves. This whole thing is like an exercise in efficiency. They've just hit all the right numbers here. The 2-speed transmission, which I'm not usually a fan of. I'm really kind of curious to see how it's integrated into this. If it's like a really noticeable, gear shift, or if it's like I don't know. Hopefully it's not like that. But yeah, the charging time is okay. 800 volts, of course, is good. So the 10 to 80, I've got it under 22 minutes. I didn't see the 21, but 22 minutes is all right. Energy capture up to 200 kilowatts. That's great. The heat pump. They call it an air-to-air multi-source heat pump, so they can take. Draw heat from the motor, the battery, and the outside air and use that to precondition your battery as well as the cabin, from what I understand. Just everything about this thing. It's the whatchamacallit, the inverters, silicon, what do you call it? SiC carbide, right? So yeah, that's all the efficiency things are there in place, and it shows like 85 kilowatt hours of a battery. And what's the range for the rear-wheel drive? Like 492 miles with an 85 kilowatt hour battery. I mean, it's not, that's the WLTP number, so ours is going to be a lot, but even if it was like 400 miles, that's like, let me just put this back on the screen.
Yeah, sorry, I'm trying to add some pictures on the
second. There. Okay.
There's the first.
Okay. That was like he's on some sort of weird loop.
Yeah, click them out.
But this is crazy though. 85 kilowatt hours, 492. Okay, say it's 7,400 miles even.
Yeah.
Which is, it's definitely going to get that in EPA or in North America. 70 miles an hour, you're definitely going to get over that. I think. But with like these super.
Let's see.
Well, yeah. But
you're talking about the highest efficiency. I mean that beats Model 3 efficiency.
Oh, yeah.
So let's see them do it. You could say a lot. I mean, I'd imagine if they're announcing this, Mercedes is a reputable company. They'll deliver on what they're saying, but that still kind of blows my mind that it could be that efficient.
Right. And which is great, except the, what was that thing? Well, yeah. So when we did the I-90 surge, we noticed that the really efficient cars, if there's when they perform, when all the conditions are perfect, they do super well. But then if there's like a slight a headwind, the hit they can take to range can be a lot more pronounced when you're super efficient and something goes out of whack, and it's everything has to work that much harder.
Yeah.
I think
and we don't live in a vacuum. We drive in the real world, and conditions are never perfect. I always say that when I do my 70-mile-an-hour highway range tests, if I do it 6 times, I'll probably get 6 different results. I mean, they should be kind of close, but they'll always be a few miles off every time. The conditions, we don't do these in a vacuum, where everything is, we eliminated all the outside variables.
Right.
I mean, I'm up in Vermont now. You could tell that, right? So the last time I took my Lightning up here was just a couple of weeks ago. And I had to stop on the way to charge because I had a tremendous headwind, and I had my KO2 tires on, the winter tires. So now this is only 2 weeks later. I drive up, it's 15 degrees warmer, and I made my tire swap. And I made it here with almost 30 miles of range. So like the difference in the same drive 2 weeks apart was like 55 miles of different driving. So, I mean, that's real world stuff. So,
Yeah. Yeah. And when your trip's like that, tailored to the actual, optimum range of your vehicle, that kind of, makes a big impact on your trip. Yeah. Whether you have to stop or not. I mean, it's
Martin Headroom's back.
Yeah,
Martin
sorry
Headroom.
Did I go Max Headroom? Did I go Headroom?
Yeah,
Sorry about that.
Yeah. Oh,
Did you
on loop. It was great.
Did you know what was going on, Martin? Could you
No,
hear
I did.
it?
No, I was just here. I was here talking about 5.1 miles per kilowatt hour, and I'm like, the guys aren't saying anything.
Where do you watch the video back later? You're gonna laugh.
You know what? I totally blame the Mac that I'm using now, and for that we totally blame Kyle, because he said to me, just like, why are you using a PC? Like, you have an iPad and a phone and an Apple Watch, you use a MacBook Pro. So I bought one, and it keeps crashing. So I will end that guy. If I ever meet him. How bizarre, we've never met. We're friends, we've never met. Like, it's bizarre. Like, we've been working together for like 4 years, all of us, and I've never been to the States in the same time as you. I will end him when I see him. Or I'll just buy him a PC. I'll do a pacifist option. What was I saying? So like, as Tom always says, it's about efficiency of driving as well as what you do with it. So this is 200 miles in 10 minutes. If I missed that stat, then you guys are talking about it. So peak is great, curve is great. The Mercedes-Benz say 200 miles, 10-minute stop. And I think that is a really good sweet spot for a premium vehicle.
That's fantastic. I always talk about Taycan and Lucid Air, and they're both right around 200 miles in about 12 minutes. So if this actually does better than that, that's tremendous. So, but again, you got to get it. You got to be on a charger that works and can deliver that much power. But we're getting more and more high-powered chargers out there, and Mercedes will have access to Tesla superchargers and everything. So, let's see. I can't wait to get a hold of one of these things.
So it runs MBOS, which is the latest operating system. They say it's AI enhanced. Talking my language, I love a good AI. And of course, over-the-air updates. The car will get better the longer you own it. It has the new MBUX virtual assistant powered by ChatGPT and Google Gemini. And I know this might seem like a little bit of like everything's got AI, like your toilet seat is AI these days, and that means it's valued at $1 billion, of course. It's $1 billion toilet seat because it's an AI toilet seat. But if you haven't used decent voice in car, and I'm really lucky with the Polestar. I got another update this week, another over-the-air update. They're coming like once every 3 months. I'm not tracking it, by the way, but because it uses the Google system inbuilt, you can just talk to it, not just turn on the seat heaters or turn on the heated steering wheel, but take me to there, and take me to this location, or take me home, and you can just kind of use everyday language. And if you are, as I was, it used voice in car a long time ago. You've got to use specific phrases, learn specific phrases, speak in a certain way, and then it never worked. You felt like an idiot, especially when people are in the car with you. The latest voice in car is much like talking to your smart devices at home, where you can just say stuff. And my kids absolutely love just talking to it and like asking, like, when did the dinosaurs live? And like, how big is the sun? And the car tells you. And so ChatGPT seems like a gimmick in car, but as long as what I'm trying to say is understands, a large language model understands what you're trying to say, I think that's a good thing. Put it in cars. It means cars are connected, of course, and you need a signal, but otherwise, I don't think that's a gimmick. I do think that's a genuinely useful thing that you only really get when you use it. So Tom, what do you think about the idea of bringing this and a hybrid version at the same time? Hybrid comes later, but only by maybe 6 months by the look of the timeline. What do you think about coming with this and not just a pure electric version of this?
Yeah, I have to look outside of the bubble that I live in, where EVs are wonderful, and nobody needs anything but an EV. And I've been living this for 15 years. So, and I understand the market's not entirely me. And I hope the people in the comment stream understand that too. As much as we are extraordinary EV enthusiasts, I mean, if you get up early in the morning to listen to, us knuckleheads, you must be an extreme EV enthusiast. The fact of the matter is there is a tremendous segment of the market that isn't aligned with our thinking, whether it's right, whether it's wrong. They might be EV curious. They might, think that at one day they'll be in an EV, but they're not ready for it yet. And, it's just a fact, and getting them in some sort of a plug-in hybrid is training wheels. It's a step towards getting them comfortable with alternative fuel vehicles, I think. And that's why you're seeing some of the U.S. automakers pivot on that, because the both GM, Ford, they didn't get the uptake that they were hoping to. They're both, at least Ford for certain, because they were a little bit earlier than GM with their vehicles, but they're disappointed in their sales. And, me and some of the other, let's say Lightning and Mach-E owners are saying, like, we don't understand why these aren't selling more. They're fantastic cars. They do everything we need them to do. But the truth of the matter is a lot of people just aren't ready for that. And automakers need to look at their bottom line. So, yeah, they have to introduce, we're going to see a lot of hybrids in the next 5 years.
Yeah, absolutely.
Cheddar Kung Pao makes a good point. It's good for EVs when manufacturers do this, because the EV will outsell the ICE model and demonstrate that the market prefers EVs, just like the BMW i4 versus the 4 Series ICE. I mean, hopefully that's the hope. And I kind of feel like the CLA is so good. Like, it's like, why would anyone want the gas model? But some people, can't charge at home, or just whatever there is, they're in some sort of situation where it just doesn't quite work for them. So there is a hybrid version they could fall back on. But man, the electric one's so good. It's just, I guess it's a matter of pricing. You mentioned $55,000. One of you, I forget who mentioned that. I couldn't find the price. I was looking over at, we were talking about this in another chat I'm in, and I think someone mentioned something around that too. So it's like it's more expensive. It's like almost 10K more than a Model 3 would be. So it's kind of like a really posh Model 3. So it's got kind of a lot to live up to in that respect. But because the new Model 3 is great, it's nice and quiet. Feels really good to drive. I'm not sure if this is really it's not really a sports sedan. I feel like it's like the acceleration numbers are okay. They're not like hang on tight. We're going for like some extreme driving or anything. But 6.6 seconds in the rear-wheel drive and 4.8 seconds. 4.8 seconds is fine. I mean, that's great. But it's not like Tesla Model 3 performance is is twice as quick as that. Or more. Yeah. So. It's not everything the Model 3 is, but it's things that the Model 3 isn't as well, as far as like I think the interior, just driving it. I think people are just going to feel like more of a luxury feel, and it's going to feel more suited to its price, which hopefully is not, 55. Maybe I'm really hoping they can get it down lower. And often too, when these cars are sold through dealerships, 55 might be the MSRP, but you can bargain down or whatever, sometimes.
Well, Dom, one of the things you started off this with was saying, like, the EV is so good. Why would anybody want anything else? And that speaks right to what I just finished talking about the bubble that you and I live in. Whereas 80 to 90% of the general public isn't aligned with that thought, doesn't realize it, or is unsure if that's true. And you got to understand, a lot of people go to dealer. The Mercedes has a lot of brand loyalty. I know a lot of friends, families that just when their lease is up, they go to the dealership and then they figure out what they want. They probably want the same car that they had before because they liked it, but they can be swayed. And you go into the dealership and you've got the gas version, the hybrid version, and the electric version side by side sitting there. They look really similar, right? I haven't seen the gas version yet, but they're going to look relatively similar. And it comes to a point of if the gas version, if the monthly payment on the gas version, forget about MSRP, because it's all about monthly payments. If there's incentives and the monthly payment on the electric version is lower than the gas version, they'll consider it. But if it's higher, they won't. And as little as $40 or $50 higher a month, that's off the table, because it comes down to, what can I afford? I like this car. I like how it looks. It's a Mercedes. It has the cachet that I like. When I roll up to the valet, with my date, I'm getting out, and it's got the Mercedes emblem on the hood. Unfortunately, a lot of people live that way, and that's what they want. So if the electric version is $50, $60 a month more, forget it. It's off the table for a huge swath of the population. So, to answer your question in a very long answer, that's why somebody would want the gas version. If the dealership can't communicate the value of driving electric, like maybe the overall value, like if they can say, look, and honestly, the huge variety, vast majority of dealers still can't do this. If the salesman can't say, well, look, that version of the car there, the payments, $485 a month. This one, it's $525 a month. So you're looking at, $45, $50 a month more, but you'll save more than $45 a month in fuel, because you can plug in at home, and here the electric rate is 18 cents a kilowatt hour and whatever. I mean, that's when I used to do my dealership training. That was one of the first things that I tried to teach the salespeople how to do. Communicate the cost of fuel savings and apply it to a monthly number, so they could easily say, yeah, I know that car is $30 more a month, but you're saving $80 a month in fuel. So you're up $50 a month. So that's one of the biggest things you have to be able to do. And almost nobody can do it. The salespeople still don't even know what a kilowatt hour costs in their sales region. So, they know how much a gallon of gas costs. So that's, right. And Kerry M said, if you can plug in at home, and that has to be the first question they ask a customer when they come in to buy the car. Do you live in a home? Do you live in an apartment? Do you have the ability to plug in at home if you were to get an electric car? Question number one. All right. They just don't do that. So that's why you and I understand all the benefits of them. And Kyle posted, I saw his comment that 80 to 90% of the people have no idea. And it's true. So that linchpin is the salesperson. He's the bridge between the knowledge and just saying, just get the gas version. It's, you know how to do that. So
but Tom, this is because salespeople are incentivized to make money. An average job in sales can make you comfortably into six figures in the right job if you are good at selling. And you might not care if you're selling cars or printer toner, but if you're good at selling, you know how to make money. And sales is a great job to make money. And you will make, if you are working in sales, you can have any particular political belief, any moral belief. You might think EVs are better, cheaper to run monthly. You might think EVs are great for the planet and green and all that kind of stuff. You might drive one yourself because they're a better driving experience. But if you work in sales, you will make the most amount of money you can to feed your family, and you'll do what's right for you. And if a dealer pays the same amount of money to sell an EV or a combustion car, like it's not even an option. If someone walks in saying, I'd like to get the new hybrid CLA, why would you convince them to go EV? Now, if you incentivized by the dealer or the OEM a bonus payment, like double commission. If you sell an EV, it's double commission. Like that would work, wouldn't it? But you work with dealers. You work with dealers who have worked with dealers extensively. You know what salespeople are like. They're just good at selling, and they'll just make the most money they can. Like, why would you sell? It's why the early adopters in the EV industry were like, everybody should be like Tesla. Everybody should be like Rivian. I don't want to go to a dealer, because they were the early adopters. They were comfortable going to a website, signing over 40 grand on their credit card or whatever, and then hopefully a car turns up one day. That's not most people. That's early adopters. That's why they went, we want the Tesla model. We hate dealerships. That's not how most people do it. Like, my mum's now changing her car. Her 3-year finance agreement's done. So she's in her 70s. She's gone back to the MG dealer to being like, what's the cost for me to buy the car out? What's the cost to get the new version of the MG5? Or should I get an MG4? And she got all the, like, but she needed her hand. Like, I obviously helped her with some advice, but ultimately she still went back to the MG dealer and is like, what are all my options? Most people are doing that. Most people aren't the early adopters. And so, when you work with dealers, the idea of saying to the dealer, franchise owner, pay your salespeople more to sell EVs, they're not going to do that, are they?
No, they're not. No. We actually, with Plug in America back years ago, we were trying, when EV sales were much lower than there are now, and we started the Plug Star thing, we were getting our sponsors to put some money in a pot to incentivize salespeople. And the funny thing was, we learned that the dealers, we were going to give the salespeople $100 a bonus for every EV they sold. And our sponsors we had money in the pot to do that, up to a certain amount, obviously. And but the dealers wanted a piece of that money. So we actually had to give the dealer like $30 and the salesperson only $70. They wouldn't let us fully incentivize the purchase to the dealer. They had to get a commission, and it killed me that we had to agree to that. But they wouldn't just let us give the salespeople, because, like you said, the salespeople need some sort of incentive. The EV is going to be harder for them to sell because they're going to have more questions. There's no questions with fueling a combustion vehicle. You don't have to tell them where to get gas, how much it costs, what happens if you're running low on gas. None of those. That doesn't go away. But with EVs, you've got to answer these questions. And some people said, well, how do you sell an EV to someone who can't plug in at home? It's very hard. And to be honest with you, it might not be the right car for that person. It might. You have to explain to them what they have to do. And to be honest with you, I think that's a big reason why a lot of the automakers initially, when the first big wave of EVs came out, what did they do? They incentivized DC fast charging. They were given 3 years free charging on the Electrify America network. Why is that? They were so worried that people would freak out about being able to charge it. The easiest thing to be would be follow the gas model and say, look, we'll cover it. You'll pay nothing for 3 years. So now somebody, even in an apartment, says, oh my God, free fuel for 3 years. I'm in. But they didn't realize really how little chargers were out there, how a lot of them didn't work, and how much of a problem it was going to be for them to refuel once a week, because they still had in their mind the gas thing. They envisioned themselves going to a gas station and getting free gas for 3 years. And it was amazing, So, and that's why that incentive, that's part of why that incentive was the worst thing that the automakers could do. I honestly think it took people out of EVs, that program that many of the OEMs had, and put them back in gas cars for another 1 or 2 vehicle. Like, they're not getting an EV for their third vehicle from now because they had such a bad experience. And I know, because I talked to people at the DC fast chargers. They're like, I'm through with this. This sucks. My dealer told me I could charge, it's their chargers are all over the place. And man, I'm out here for an hour once a week. I have things to do, and they lived in an apartment they couldn't charge. So, they figured that they just get free fuel. So, I mean, I'm not surprised. There's going to be a lot of skinned knees in this transition, but the automakers really tripped over themselves in a way that Tesla didn't, and there's things that we have to give Tesla credit for. There's things I think we need to hold them to that maybe they're not doing right. But damn it, They knew how to do this electric thing. They knew how charging was going to be the linchpin to having a good ownership experience. They came out and built one of the best level 2 chargers on the market, charging equipment. They gave people probably the best mobile connector that's on the market and put it in their back of their vehicle. And then they went out and built the best DC fast charging network, to date, at least. So, we got to give them kudos for that. They removed the biggest barrier to moving into an electric car.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mark Norman sends us a little tip. He says, did you see the JD Power article saying EV charging was getting worse? Those people are nuts. I've been all over, and it's so much better. Which I've seen a lot of that sentiment around. EV charging is way better than it was a year ago. So, but maybe this is a lag. I don't know, or maybe it's a particular location. Maybe it's Southern California where charging can be a bit more of a challenge because of the high demand and just the need for more places to charge.
It depends who you ask as well. Like if you ask someone who's always on the road and needs to get somewhere quickly, they are gonna have a higher expectation of what they want from a charging network than me. I do infrequent long trips, and when I do stop, I'm probably stopping for at least 20-25 minutes. And I don't have very high expectations because I'm not in a hurry to go somewhere. It depends who you ask as well. So I saw a survey this week. It was a UK piece of data from a leasing company. I forget the name. And it was, will you go back to, I was asking EV owners, will you go back to combustion? And it was 100% of people said they're staying EV. And I was like, BS! Like, even if one person were, I own a diesel car. Like, we still have a diesel Golf in the driveway. We never use it. But like, I don't hate combustion. I was just, before we came on, I was watching the Australian Formula One practice session. Like, there's a time and a place to ride horses, but we don't ride them to work anymore. The old cliche. That adage that it's okay to burn stuff, like, it's okay. Like, sometimes it's fine. Do 100% of EV owners say, I'm never going back to EV? I was like, nah, that data's wrong. So maybe that data that you saw earlier, Mark, was, unnecessarily pessimistic. Hey, should we do a quick vote? If you're watching the show live, if you're watching live, let me know in the comments, where do you want us to go next? Like a choose your own adventure, like the books I'd read in the 80s growing up. Do you want us to go to Toyota BZ4X, massively improved, or Audi A6 e-tron? I should have done a poll. If I was logged into YouTube, I would just set up a poll and give it 5 minutes. But you can just leave a comment if you want to. Toyota or Audi? Where should we go next? I'd love to know. If you're listening to this on the audio version, we also do a visual version on YouTube. You can watch us live, 9:30 Eastern. Slightly different from me because, as I realized last night, chatting to Dom on WhatsApp, US changed their clocks, and I was almost an hour late today. That would not have been good.
It would have been a disaster. Oh my God.
or if you are watching this, we have an audio version as well. So if you listen to podcasts, you probably have an app. You probably have your favorite app that you use. Maybe it's Spotify. I see a lot of people these days using Spotify and maybe Apple or whatever. Then open that up, search Batteries Included podcast, and then just click add, subscribe. It's a free ad. It's a free subscribe. That way, if you catch the video version, just delete it. And then if not, then you've always got us in your ears. 1 vote for Toyota, 2 for Audi A6, 2 for Toyota. It's even. It's really close. Look at this. 2 more.
Toyota was way ahead at the start, but then Audi kind of pulled back up again. It's like a freaking race in
it's
here.
It's close. I can't. Yeah. I wasn't able to
Dragon
count.
says Martin and Toyota ran. No, I love Toyota. My best friends. I didn't get an invite to the UK launch of the new BZ4X this week. Can you believe it? It must be lost in the post.
My shocked face.
Must be lost in the post. I expect it'll turn up late. Damn post. Never mind. Where should we? I've lost track of the votes. Where do we go now?
I think Toyota. I think Toyota's really kind of edged it. I mean, I'm pretty excited about the Audi because it matches up so well against the CLA, but we can talk about that. But yeah.
All right, Dom, get on the pictures and videos for us of the Toyota BZ4X, getting enhancements to its battery, its motor, its charging times, its interior, its exterior. But will it all come to the US, and when will it arrive in the USA market? Well, I don't have the answer to that just yet. But I did make it must be a 20-minute bonus podcast on my EV News Daily podcast channel about this. And no, I wasn't particularly ranty, but I did point out that Toyota has spent an untold amount of money with their slogan, "We choose not to plug in," or the other one they were using often is "We choose hybrid." But now they have to plug in, which is unfortunate, because they have launched new EVs, new CHR Plus and some other stuff. But the refresh BZ4X they're not changing the name of this. So their future EVs, they won't call letters and numbers like the one in China and this one. They will just use their nameplates, which is a good thing, because we don't need Beyond Zero 4X, whatever that. It must mean something. So the battery sizes, they've now done the Hyundai thing of having two battery sizes that are a good distance apart, rather than having the same battery, basically. So the battery options are going to be 57.7 kilowatt hours or 73.1 kilowatt hours. The current US models have very similar sized battery packs. It was 63.4 and 65.5. So now, difference, you can say, well, I want a single motor, small battery. This is my use case. I'll save some money. So the front-wheel drive BZ4X is being updated, and I think this will come to the US market, and 164 horsepower for the single motor version. The bigger battery gets a 211 horsepower motor. The dual motor variant goes to 337 horsepower. That's up from 215. So that's what, 120 something horsepower more on the dual motor variant. That's going to be a properly more interesting car to drive now. See, Jordan's in the comments as well. I'd like to hear what he has to say about that. He's a big fan of the BZ4X. The charging time is the thing they said that they've been working on with a battery preconditioning system. You can manually activate it. It'll automatically activate when you navigate to a DC fast charger to ensure that the battery is at an optimum temperature. They didn't say that they'd removed the limit of DC fast charging in a 24-hour period, but surely they have done. They are giving a 30-minute charge time 10 to 80, which, again, is Model Y territory. There's nothing to be ashamed of about that. They've doubled towing to 1,500 kilograms on the dual motor version. Inside, it's an entirely different story. That quirky interior has gone, much more conventional, big screen, 14-inch touchscreen, with integrated climate controls, but also a redesigned center console, more premium materials, some physical buttons as well. Outside is less of an update, but I think looks pretty good. So the EU, so WLTP range will go to 356 miles, which I think is a 12% increase on where it was. So if that is applied to the US, EPA obviously is less, but a 12% increase on where BZ4X is now goes up to 282 miles for this battery. So I've given you the stats. Tom, what do you reckon of Toyota having another stab at this car?
So, to me, I look at it as they did the bare minimum to make it acceptable. I really can't say much more than that.
That's it. So they just did what they had to do.
Yeah, I viewed it as unacceptable before for a Toyota that has such tremendous amount of experience with batteries and efficient vehicles. And, they've been putting batteries in cars as long as anybody, with mild hybrids and so forth. That's great. Pete Glass just said it's less worse. That's a good example.
All right.
Larry just came out ho hum. Yeah, exactly, Larry. That's how I feel. Is it better? Yeah, it's better. It's improved. But I hold Toyota to a high standard because they've been a very good car company for many years now. I've owned many Toyotas. I told you guys I've owned Tacomas. I thought they were the best, like small to medium sized pickup trucks, efficient, durable. I know I have a lot of friends that have RAV4s, love them. Even the RAV4 EVs, which wasn't their powertrain, but they're good vehicles. And this still isn't, what Toyota could do. It's bare minimum, so I'm not going to get excited about it.
Tom?
I mean, I thought, yeah, I hear you, Tom, and yeah, damning with the faint praise over there. Yeah, the first effort wasn't impressive. Obviously, it just wasn't. It's just none of the metrics really. It didn't hit anything. It wasn't exciting, but it did sell well eventually. I think they lowered the price and added some incentives or whatever. So, that did change things up. And I did see the price because it's always a balance of features and how much you're paying for them. And so, yeah. So the price I saw for this is in the 30s, which is great. Not bad, especially with these new improvements. I think it's kind of worth the money now. Basically, it's really kind of matching its price. It's got the silicon carbide inverter added to it now, so it's got better efficiency, so a bit more range. I'm not sure if we saw how much more we did actually. It's down this list. I think they're saying that from 516 up to 573, that's 50 kilometers, that's 30 miles. I mean, that's a decent bit of improvement. It's just improved all around, except for maybe even the charging. I think you said was better, right?
Yeah, the charging's better.
So,
Yeah.
It's still a decent little runaround car. I mean, I'm not.
It sold well. Like, it's selling well, decently
you
well.
could put four wheels on a turd in a Toyota dealership and it'll sell. But
right.
It's not a bad car. It really isn't. I mean, the first version was kind of bad, but this, with the improvements they had here, this isn't bad. It's just, I know Toyota could do so much better because they do make such good cars. It's hard for me to give them credit when I know it's a half-assed effort. And that's really how I feel about this. It's just that they could put out like the RAV4 sells so well, and it's such a great vehicle. It's the perfect size. It does everything so well. If Toyota put the full weight of their brand and made an electric RAV4, forget about this BZ shit, and just made a gas RAV4, a hybrid RAV4, and a fully electric RAV4, and did it as good as they could, I believe it would be a fantastic electric vehicle. They just don't want to. So I just don't want to. I really don't want to give them a lot of oxygen because they're doing the bare minimum.
Yeah.
Right. Well, yeah, and they did quite a few things actually this week. So they had a big thing in, was it Brussels, somewhere in Europe, which is kind of interesting. Kentucky something or other. Anyway. And they presented they have like 9 different EVs coming to Europe. So this is like part of the Toyota news this week. So they got the BZ4X, much improved. Still not. I'm still, there's so many other EVs that I think I'd prefer if I had the money. But that's what it is. But there are a bunch of EVs coming from Toyota and in the future, and some of those could come to the US, I guess. I don't know if we saw that money. There was the silhouette of a pickup truck, I believe they showed. And I think some people were getting kind of excited about that because we do expect Toyota would sell a pickup truck over here in the US, an electric one. Maybe, I guess, I don't know.
Yeah. So that would be, if that was a Toyota Hilux, then that would be massively popular.
Yeah. Yeah, you would think so. I mean, then we would think the Ford F-150 also is massively popular, but it's not really selling like we all expected it might at the beginning, or several years ago. So it's hard to just say just because it's a pickup truck and from Toyota it's going to sell, because when the most popular vehicle it's even made in the US, the electric version of it is it's just way below expectations. It's because it's Tom, you have one. It's like the best truck they make for a lot of Ford owner. I mean, a lot of F-150 drivers. They don't even know what they're missing with that truck, I feel like. Yeah.
They also updated the Lexus this week, which we'll quickly mention. The RZ 550 F Sport. It's again genuinely looks quite spicy. It's got a steer-by-wire system, which is a pretty decent technology. It's not groundbreaking or new to the automotive industry, but it's certainly very interesting to think about steer-by-wire on the RZ 550e F Sport. It comes with a bit like the Hyundai Ioniq 5N, a simulated gear shift thing, but no one's obviously tried it yet. Now that is the Ioniq version is proper giggles, and it's it does make you smile. You don't use it day in, day out with the families in the car. But it does work quite well as a party trick. The RZ now includes the interactive manual drive mode, simulating a 7-speed gearbox with immersive combustion sounds and a real combustion feeling, they said. So Akio Toyoda got his way on that. Increased power and range. The RZ 550 F Sport now has 408 horsepower, which, like I say, that's a pretty spicy amount. And the lineup now features battery size increases, so more range, about up to 62 miles, 77 kilowatt-hour lithium-ion battery. And as you can see on screen, some changes inside and on the exterior as well. Front and rear spoilers, very sporty interior accents too. This is all announced for the European market. Lexus indicating that the US details will be supplied later, suggesting that there might be some variations in power output or battery size, things like that. They wouldn't just agree that this was a car that would come to the US in this guise. But okay, that's probably about all we'll say. Oh, and the CHR Plus, literally the best one they showed, says Balin. Well, yes and no. I mean, it was a model, wasn't it, that they showed, and we don't know when we're getting it, but it will be cheaper and than a BZ4X, and many people like the CHR. I don't know if you guys, they sold it in the US for a while, didn't they? I'm not sure whether it's still on sale
for 4 years, 2018 to 2022, I believe.
Right. We obviously have it on sale here, so very popular form factor. And yeah, the CHR Plus could be interesting family car that comes at a decent price point, but again, no one. This wasn't a drive or anything like that. It was come and have a look at a one-off we built on stage. So we'll wait and see when these arrive.
I kind of like this thing actually.
It looks kind of nice.
Okay. Yeah, it's like
it shares nothing, by the way, with the CHR. So they were clear to point out this is not it uses the e-Tinga platform, TNGA platform like the BZ4X. Nothing to do with the CHR. So even if you can get CHR in your country, it's nothing to do with it. It's like using the Ford Capri name.
It's like the Ford, let's say the BZ4X is a TNGA E whatever platform. So it's the same running gear and battery under this as a BZ4X, but it's slightly smaller and looks a little bit different, better, maybe.
I think so. I like
it better? I don't know.
I think so.
I kind of like it.
Okay. All right. Let's do some housekeeping then. For anyone that's not been on your channel in the last little while, Tom, on State of Charge, you told us you had a video update coming about the Equinox EV repair situation. Go and check it out. But Tom, what is the latest with your Equinox that somebody managed to not quite rear end, but your vehicle was parked and someone crashed into the rear quarter on the left side? What's the latest?
Yeah. So the body shop that I have it at, it's a certified GM shop that's affiliated with the dealership. Let me come in and make a quick video of it now that they have everything taken apart. And it's a lot more damage than I had originally thought. Pretty much the whole entire suspension for the left rear wheel needs to be replaced. Everything's bent up in there. And it's going to be out of commission for a while, unfortunately. That's where it doesn't look bad there, right? It's like, oh yeah, just, but actually you could see that front wheel is pushed up about 2 inches, and everything behind that is broken.
And you drove it home, right? You said it felt weird driving it home, but it was also icy on the road, so you weren't sure.
Yeah, so I live about 2 miles from there, and all back roads 25-mile-an-hour speed limits. So I gingerly drove it home, and then the dealership's not too far away. So I went. I did drive it there, but yeah, the back was dancing. It was giving me a nice dance as I was going. Yeah, and here's at the body shop where you could see. I actually the dealer called me and said, if you want to come, you got like a half an hour where I can let you view it. So I just hopped right in the lightning, put the camera on, and said, yeah, I just got a call from the dealership. I'm driving over there now. Let's take a look at it. And they gave me a list of some of the parts. They're actually getting some of the parts in now, but that some doesn't help. If you need 300 parts and you get $299, you can't put it together. So we're waiting for all of them, and hopefully it won't be out of commission too long. I think it's 3 weeks ago now, so we're pushing up on a month already, and I don't think they've really begun to do any work yet because they're waiting for the parts to come in. So it doesn't look bad, but if you inspected it closely, almost everything is slightly bent. And when you get in that situation, the body shop then just says, well, we're going to race well, that bracket's really bent.
Right.
But you err on the side of caution, and you just kind of replace everything in there. So
Yeah.
we'll see.
Yeah. Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Thanks for the update. This week, Dom and I did wonder if everything was okay at home, or maybe someone was leaning on you, and you were sending out a secret signal because you put out a 10-minute video, like a 10-minute Charger review video. This is very unlike you, Tom. You know, is everything all right? If someone just nod twice if you want us to send help, okay? A 10-minute video for a Charger? What? This is the Grizzly Ultimate 80-amp Charger. Very unlike you to do this is basically a short for you, but no, I'm only joking, of course.
I can't just do it. It's impossible for me to review a Charger in 10 minutes. So what I'm doing is I call it the quick charge review. Once I do my full reviews, then I take that hour-long video and just chop it up and make it fit in 10 minutes so people can get the bulk of my review if they don't want to watch an hour-long video, which I understand. That's long to commit to a Charger. If there's 3 or 4 Chargers that you think you might want to buy, you don't want to watch 5 hours of video to decide which one. So I'm trying to cut them down and do the reviews. You could see there's abrupt chops in the video, but that's what I'm doing to try to show people everything in my review in 10 minutes.
Excellent. All right, go check that out. And talking of things getting shorter, there's a shorter version of the A to Z. As my Canadian listeners reminded me this week, I said A to Z. I want to be respectful. And I had like 4 emails from Canada within a couple of hours going,
Really?
No, we say Z. Like, and I was like, oh, okay, I'm so sorry. Like, okay. I gather there's perhaps some, I mean, I could have checked with Dom.
You say Z there, don't you, in England?
Yeah, of course.
Okay.
But I thought it was an American company. I thought they were actually called A to Z. Oh, well, it's a bit like, it's not like the car. It's called potato. It's like, it's like, that's the name of the company. I'll call it that. And Canadians went, no. It's called A to Z. We're Canadians. Don't associate us with the United States of America. It's like, I'm very sorry. We're not the 51st state. So, okay, whoops. Tapped into some unexpected anger this week with my Canadian listeners, but there we go. So, yes, A to Z. There we go. Shorter version of their supercharger extension cable, Tom. There's been obviously lots of debate about should you use these extension cables or not. You've been doing some testing on different vehicles. Who would this be good for if they want to buy it?
I mean, there's a lot of use cases for it, but certainly not everybody needs one of these. But there's a lot of use cases. So I did the video on the prototype that they sent me, which is long. It's like 15 feet long. You see it wrapped around my shoulder there if you're watching. But then I announced in the video that they're not going to make one this long. At least that's what A to Z said. They're going to make one that's 5 feet long, like 1.5 meters long. They just made a few of these for testing. A lot of people said that's not going to be long enough. 5 feet's not going to be long enough. It won't reach. So what I went and broke open all of my advanced tools in the State of Charge garage, and I built a 5-foot version of this. So I went out and tested it on my Lightning, my Equinox. I actually did it like the day before the Equinox got hit. And then I got a follower. See, that's my homemade version there. High-tech stuff. I kind of like it better than the A to Z's, but maybe they'll hire me to come engineer one for them. So then I got Lucid to loan me a Lucid Air, because with the super long hood of the Air, I thought that might be one of the hardest vehicles to reach the charge port. And then actually, I had one of our followers had a Audi e-tron. And I mentioned on a show 3 or 4 weeks ago, if anybody in New Jersey has an e-tron, I'd love to use one, because the e-tron I thought also might have difficulty reaching. And he did right there in the video, and drove up an hour. Thank you very much for coming up and loaning me your e-tron for like 5 minutes so I can make a quick video. But the point of it was I just wanted to see if 5 feet was going to be enough. And it was. Even with the air was the most difficult one. And I had to scoot the tires over and be right on the white line on the right side of the parking stall, but it fits within the stall and it barely fits. So yes, 5 feet will be enough to allow you to charge any electric vehicle in the proper supercharger stall. Now, would 6 feet be better? I suppose, because you'd have a little bit more room. But I think A to Z is balancing the cost of it that it's going to cost them to make. That's going to affect what they could sell it for. The weight of it, the size of it. They want it to be nice and compact that they could, somebody could store in their car and it won't take up too much space. That said, we had a lot of people that have pickup trucks say, I want much longer because when I'm towing, I want to be able to park, 2 stalls away if I have to. And so A to Z is open to also selling a longer version if there's enough demand for it. So if enough people say in the comments of the video and on X and so forth, I want a longer one, they'll perhaps make one. And also, and I should mention this, A to Z also just posted on X, they're going to be getting a batch of the right length ones, the 5-foot ones. And they're going to do like a beta testing program. And they're actually going to give them to maybe a dozen or 2 dozen people to be involved in this beta testing program. So if somebody's interested in being one of their beta testers, head over to X to the A to Z EV account and throw your name in the hat and say, hey, and give them a reason why. Look, I have this vehicle. I do this. I'd like to be a beta tester for this. They're shooting for selling the production version in June. So we're not far away. But what they want to do is get, a dozen or 2 people out there using these and giving them feedback. Maybe they'll say, maybe the pool of people will say 5 feet's just not enough. We need another foot to make this workable, and that might affect the output. But they want a variety of different vehicles being used in superchargers all over and testing them out. So if you're interested in being in that beta test pool, let A to Z know.
Or A to Z, as it might be called in the Commonwealth.
A to Z. Yeah. See, that's what if you're watching on YouTube now, that's what my Equinox, and I'm not even pulled all the way up to the station or all the way to the right side of the stall. It reaches very easily with 5 feet with the Equinox. There's plenty of room there. And one thing I want to address that a lot of people asked me was, why didn't I back in the cars? That they thought that it would be easier. It actually wouldn't be. I measured it. Like the Lucid Air wouldn't reach if I backed it in because the car's longer. It was a longer run from the back of the car to the charge port than it is going across the hood. So, but I couldn't believe how many people, at least 20 or 30 people were like, you're doing this wrong. Back it in. It'll be closer. It's not. Maybe if it was a really small car, like a Bolt, but even then, I don't think it would be closer. And, the charge port's on the front of the vehicle. It's easier to nose in. I just don't. I didn't even think of doing it because I knew it would be longer that way. Especially like my Lightning would be like 4 feet short if I tried to back the Lightning in, but it reaches if you front it in.
Right.
Good.
Makes sense.
Cool.
So I want to address the comments in a section. We've had like 10 people say, so I'm assuming John can't make it again. For the second week in a row, we've announced that John McElroy was going to be on the show to talk about the effects of tariffs on the U.S. auto industry. And we've known John. We've had him on our show before. I've known John for years. Super guy. Knows Detroit better than anyone and the effects of the unions and how Detroit works. And we had him committed last week, and I don't know the backstory, but he had a problem. He couldn't come on, and we confirmed again this week that he would come on.
Email.
and
got
with an email, and he didn't show. So I've known John for years. He certainly wouldn't do it on purpose. So
hey Tom,
what?
I got an update.
Oh.
I just checked my email. I've got an email from him this morning. Then it says, "I apologize profusely. I am homesick with food poisoning and unable
gosh.
to do this today." So there we go.
Okay.
Sorry,
so,
John. Hope you get better soon.
Yeah, feel better, John. We will have him on at some point in the future because I love John's insights are amazing. The guy knows, everything about what's going on in Detroit, whether it's particularly the union stuff, and that's why we talked to him about the unions a while ago.
Yeah,
and
that was great.
But yeah, we'll figure. We'll just keep putting him on our thumbnail to get more people to tune in. And at some point, you guys will realize this is all a sham just to get more viewers.
Tap into John's audience. Yeah, he is at the heart of the automotive industry. I was listening to the I think it's called the Daily Drive podcast, which automotive news, which is a subscription website newspaper for the dealership industry, for the automotive industry. It's kind of industry facing, and they know what they're talking about. And they last night were, I think, as incredulous as many to say, tariffs yes, tariffs no, be what they will, but you just need certainty. Is it? Because the steel and aluminium ones came in at 50% this week, and within hours they were 25%, and they were like, from the automotive industry perspective, and I'm sure John will tell us more. Like, tell us the playing field, not just this week or this month, but like we need to plan our business, and we'll cut our cloth accordingly.
Right.
There are some that are more outspoken against or for, but the unions, obviously, I think I've seen the unions come out this week, the last couple of weeks saying they're for the tariffs. So everyone's got an opinion, but just give us certainty. And this is like no way to run a country. It's no way to run an industry. And you're just going to kill industries if you like, hey, it's 50%. And then like, it's 25% today. You're like, well, we all went to bed last night telling our teams, right, get to work on this. And then they wake up and like, well, what do I do? So it is, it's very Mickey Mouse, and they just need to just decide one way or the other, and we'll get on with it.
Yeah, that's the thing, Martin. Initially you thought like this is the worst thing that can happen to the auto industry right now. After we signed this agreement years ago, actually during the previous Trump administration, signed the agreement. After that, they invested in factories and whatever. So the worst thing would be to all of a sudden put this 25% on. But then no, the worst thing, it got worse. Like to say, okay, it's on, it's off, it's on, it's off. Like the automobile industry, as much as any industry needs certainty because they have such long lead times and can't build a factory like, you can't just say, okay, we'll start making here. So, it'll be interesting what happens with regards to tariffs in Canada and Mexico. I just think the big companies need to have some sort of certainty. If there's going to be a tariff, whether you're for it or against it, I don't care. Just say it. Okay, this is it. But the whole waffling back and forth stuff that'll kill the industry more than anything.
And I think companies really need some heads up, some runway ahead of the thing, because so in the case of like France, I think we just put like a 200% tariff on wine or something from France. So I was reading, this is how it can affect businesses. I was reading this one guy online last night. He just made a purchase of, I think it was like a $500,000 or $250,000 in wine, like a big importer. And then he's already paid for this wine. It just hasn't been shipped. And now to get the wine, he's got to pony up 200% of what he paid already. So like, I don't know. So he could do that, but could he sell it for that kind of price afterwards? Or maybe he just lost a couple, $250,000 or whatever it was. So it's just companies need like a heads up of be able to see this, to work it into their financials and everything.
Yeah. Well, hopefully we'll get some type of certainty soon done, one way or the other. If there's going to be tariffs, there's going to be tariffs. But the whole, is this a negotiating point? Like, are we just throwing out ridiculous tariff numbers to get concessions on this and this,
Right,
and then say, okay,
right.
the tariffs. Don't worry about the tariffs. We got what we really wanted. It's hard to know, but hopefully we get certainty soon because industry needs certainty.
Yeah, that's above all, really. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I saw someone in the comments saying, well, the car companies could just build factories in the US. That's a good point. And many of them do, but many of them have them in many places.
For a lot of reasons, yeah.
Like the Volkswagen plant in Chattanooga, which is not that old, it's like 15 years old, after spending a huge amount of money on that, employing a lot of American people in that facility. But VW said, well, we're not going to do anything after this week's, again, to me, to you, up a bit, down a bit. Like the Friends episode of getting the sofa stuck on the stairs, the US just pivot and just shouting like, what is going on in the world? And Volkswagen said, nah, we're going to carry on making cars in Mexico. Like these 4 years are going to fly by. We just we'll deal with the US when because this is his second term and his final term. But we're not going to engage with this kind of let's build factories in America kind of. It's just billions and billions of dollars. So
I mean, it could, I feel like I could really trigger just because of some bad blood now between the U.S. and Canada, which is kind of crazy to me. But Canada could just turn around and say, "Okay, we're dropping our 100% tariff on Chinese cars, and BYD, that factory you wanted to build up here, come on in. We need someone to employ our auto workers since they've all our auto jobs have moved south."
Well, I mean, Northvolt went under this week. So, Northvolt had filed for Chapter 7, and then this week in Sweden, they just couldn't make it work, so they filed for bankruptcy. Northvolt had big plans in Quebec, Ontario?
Quebec,
Quebec, right? So if I was Canada...
That part of the plan isn't quite under administration. There's some weirdness going on.
I'd grease those wheels. If I was the new Prime Minister, I'd absolutely grease those wheels. I'd be calling CATL and BYD and being like, right, those Chinese tariffs are gone. Come and build some Chinese battery factories here, right on the US border, and you can sell all your cheap Chinese cars here, like the UK. Now, it is a balancing act, by the way. You can view it two ways. The way that we're doing it since Brexit, now we're no longer in the European Union. You can say that we are trying to have our cake and eat it. Like Sir Keir Starmer doing that press conference with Trump, presenting the letter from the king. You could say the US is going to try and, the UK will try and be a bridge between the EU and America, and in doing so, be nothing at all and just get screwed over. We're a small island after all. And on the other hand, maybe that kind of independent, we don't put tariffs on Chinese cars, by the way. So we have plenty of Chinese cars here, and there's plenty of right-hand drive versions of those cars being made for the Asian markets, for Australia, for the UK market, where we're all right-hand drive. And so Canada could say, actually, Chinese companies, come in, right? You're welcome. And let people across the border see what you could be buying and what you could be driving, but you won't. And that would be really weird. Like all these Neos and BYDs and Xpungs and the MGs. Obviously, we got a lot of MGs here. The SAIC.
Xiaomi, though. Xiaomi
flying around in Canada in 4 years, 4 years time. It'd be super weird.
Move back home if they get Xiaomi's there. I don't know.
But it would be super weird. So they actually could do that. And the new PM is pretty punchy. So.
Anyway, but back
to cars. We'll finish off by talking about the Audi A6 Sportback e-tron. Must be sedan week this week because there's another one. And the S6 Sportback e-tron as well. So what do we know? PPE platform, premium platform, electric, same as the Audi Q6 SUV and the Porsche Macan, of course. So all the goodies, all the toys, all the juice from the 800-volt system, 100 kilowatt-hour gross or 94.4 kilowatt-hour usable. Not a mega buffer on that. Maximum DC charging, 270 kilowatts. I think on that, so that's 10 to 80, and again 21 minutes, 392 miles. I believe is EPA because we're talking about the US release of this vehicle now. Others have got it already. So rear wheel drive version 392, good number. 3 variants: rear wheel drive, all wheel drive, S6. 3 trim levels as well. So where does pricing start? Well, A6 rear-wheel drive, 375 horsepower. So that's the 0 to 60 version in what, 5? Oh, I've forgotten. Seconds on that, starting at 65,900 US. The e-tron Quattro is 4.3 seconds 0 to 60, starting at 67.9. And then the S6 e-tron, 543 horsepower, 3.7 seconds 0 to 60, starting at 78.7 in the US. That S6 Sportback getting the adaptive air suspension as standard, and some nice toys on that as well. So we'll finish off by talking about that. I'm not sure if you had some pictures on screen, because I've been trying to both, talk and think at the same time, which is not easy for me.
Actually.
So I did have some pickies a moment ago. Dom, what do you reckon of this? Because you've been on top of the news this week.
So this is pretty nice. I'm liking this. This is like the sedan version of the Q6, basically. So it's the same platform, the premium platform electric underneath of it. This video is kind of not the greatest video. It's like typical mini kind of movie scene, but they do show some flashes of the car, and it looks like a nice executive sedan to me. I think it's I guess it'd be like a Model S competitor more than like the CLA. It's kind of funny to compare it to the CLA that we just had on, though, because it's very similar in some ways. They're both 800 volt systems. The battery in the CLA is smaller by like almost 10 kilowatt hours, but it goes significantly or somewhat farther. I'm not sure if it's significantly farther. 392 miles it says here on this one. So yeah, I'd like to see these two side by side in like a road test or whatever. I think that'd be a kind of interesting just to see which one can just charge and go better, because the charging times are also kind of similar-ish, and ranges are kind of similar-ish, and the ways to get the efficiency are also kind of similar. This still doesn't have a two-speed gearbox like the CLA, but it does have the silicon carbide inverters as well, and it's a bit more sporty than the CLA 2 is. What's this? Is it 4.3 seconds?
Yeah,
for the Quattro, and then 3.7 seconds for the spicy one.
The S6.
They didn't give a time for the rear-wheel drive, but I think it's probably like 6 seconds.
It's a good-looking beast. There we go.
I'm sure.
For our YouTube viewers, that's a great-looking car, man. And the estate version, of course, which you don't get, is forbidden fruit.
Man. Yeah, the estate. I've wanted to show videos on. I went to the Audi channel, and they just have like pictures of the A6 Avant, which is like the wagon. That's Avant means station wagon in Audi, and the thing looks so good. But yeah, we don't seem to get any of them. The station wagons are like, come on, man, this is like
just crossovers and SUVs. We don't the
right.
wagons here.
Man, this the BMWs, the Volkswagen ID7 wagon. There's just so many good wagons that Europe gets that we don't, and it's not fair. This at least has a lift back. I believe the whole back portion of that trunk comes up, which is kind of nice. I think the CLA doesn't have that. It just had a more of a traditional trunk, I believe. So yeah, the lift back is always.
I think this is much bigger than a CLA, right, Tom?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, much bigger.
Yeah. This is like the same footprint, I guess, as the Q6.
Yeah, I mean, this, like you said, was more of a Model S competitor, where the CLA is Model 3.
Right. It's just, but the CLA, I was just comparing those two because they're both new and they have similar, 800 volt platforms and, efficient powertrains and everything like that. But they're kind of different, slightly different audiences, but both like a premium edge to them for sure.
Still putting screens on the passenger side. It's a Chinese thing, isn't it? It must be popular. This is obviously going to be a Chinese car as well.
I mean, the CLA had that too. They had the whole
why are we doing
3 screens are all across the front, so the passenger gets their screen too. I think that's
everyone's got a phone they can watch.
It's going to be
passenger
inevitable.
wants to play, Martin.
I know. I can't know whether I've said it on my podcast or here, so I'll do the rant again. I do think that we are in this screens thing is cyclical. I think Tesla started it. China made it mainstream. And I think that look at the Rolls-Royce Spectre, right? That is not a massive screen. That's a very nice place to be. I think we are going through a cycle. And I think there'll be a time when we look back at this era of just these massive screens in cars. And it's like, is this really as premium Audi as you want the interior to be? Because anyone can do this. And I don't know. maybe I'm just hopeful that this era passes and that we end up with appropriate size screens that do a certain thing. Sort of, I don't know. Feel like we're.
I think you have a good point there, Martin. Yeah.
Hopefully, we move past this phase, and I don't know.
I feel like automakers are kind of going both ways. I see some with a lot of buttons in new EVs with like a lot of buttons kind of engineered in there as like a very conscious decision to avoid screen. But then like the new Cadillacs, screen all the way across the front. Lots of new cars, big screens, especially Chinese market. But
there we go. So
yeah.
Okay, well, that looks like a nice if expensive vehicle. Mike says, and Mike knows what he's talking about. In 15s, I hope we know how to fix all these displays and update the software.
Right.
Yeah, it's a good shout.
That's a huge
Mike.
Point. I can't play YouTube in my 2018 Model 3. You try to bring up the YouTube player and it crashes. The computer just can't handle it anymore. I mean,
Right.
Forget trying to use the browser on a 2018 Model 3. It's kind of pointless. It's a good thing that you have your phones, because after a while, these things, I don't know if this is going to be a thing that we see in the future as well, but like, at least in the case of the car I have, it's outlived its computer's usefulness or ability to really interact with the modern world.
Interesting. Let me circle back to that extension cable for a second. Malcolm asked, did you use the extension cable on EVs with the charge port in the rear passenger side? I didn't, because if you have a charge port in the rear passenger side and you back in, it's like the front. It's like having it on the front left side of the vehicle. And typically when you have a rear right side charge port, it's really towards the back of the vehicle. Whereas when you have it on the front, it's at the end of the front fender near the passenger door. So all of the vehicles that have right side rear charge ports will reach with a 5-foot cable, all of them. So that's why I didn't test it. You really only needed to test vehicles with the front left side, because those are in the front and set back from the front of the vehicle by the driver's door. So any of the other vehicles will reach.
Nice. All right. Hey, look, I think we're done. I think we're good. I was going to finish early so that when I was finished with Kyle for getting me to buy all Mac stuff, I was going to head around to McElroy's place to give him the wedgie of all wedgies, but now we know he's sick, so I'm sorry, John. I don't mean that. Get well soon. Feel better. I was going to use the extra time to do that, but I think we've got time just to wrap up, haven't we, Don?
Yeah, I mean, could mention that the Porsche Cayenne is now scheduled, or is coming this year, but the convertibles that we've been looking forward to are not. They're pushed back 2 years, so I think that we wanted to mention that sad news.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
And Kyle was in here talking about this video earlier. He came down south here last week or so and found this crazy. Some gentleman had collected a ton of EVs, like pre 2000, I think, EVs basically, and there's like a barn finds. There's a whole video. I think it's like a 2-hour video or something. And Kyle said they've got really great reviews. People are loving it. And so just throwing that out there, if you're into EVs and like to see what we used to have in the way of EVs back in the day, this video might be for you.
Yeah, it's called the Insane Barn Find. And it's just a short one, actually, just a short 2 hours long, I think. That's it's good. I've said this before. I absolutely love watching long content online. I just put a TV up in the studio this week just so that I could watch long form EV content, not on a small screen. Where are we? I go around. We even got the little TV on the wall now in EV News Daily headquarters, so I can watch Kyle's stuff on a big screen, not just on a little screen. Well, there we go. Right. Let's call it a day. Thank you very much, as always, for watching. Hopefully you enjoyed the podcast this week. If you are watching this online, a reminder, we have an audio version. And so all you do is you go to your favorite app or however you listen to podcasts, and you just search Battery Included Podcast, and then you hit subscribe, and it's free. So why wouldn't you do it? And that way you've got the option. Catch us live, catch us in vision, or listen to us just in your ears. Thank you very much, as always, for being part of the live show. If you've watched this on a Friday morning US time and joining in with the comments, we love to see that. And the most important thing is you give it a thumbs up, and you can subscribe to the channel, which is always good. But I've seen some videos lately on YouTube getting massive views, and like they're a new channel, and it's all about the thumbs up and people watching it. And it's not, you can subscribe if you want to. That really helps us. It's a nice little metric to look at. But if you like what we talk about, hit the thumbs up, make sure that you watch the show, and YouTube will spread the word about electric vehicles to people who are just like you. Get them in the tribe. This is what we talk about every week. Thank you all very much for joining us, as always. Just one more thing to do. Hey, Dom, say ciao.
Ciao.